I buried my friend alive, now he is haunting me. I thought it was over. I told myself no one would find out. The night was cold when I buried him. The kind of cold that clings to your bones, that makes your breath come out in ragged, frozen gasp. I had dug the hole myself, hands raw, muscles screaming until the earth swallowed him whole. The last thing I heard before I covered his face with dirt was his voice, weak, desperate. Please. I told myself I didn't hear it. I told myself he was already dead. But now, I know better, because he's not gone. He's here, and he's watching me. It started small. A cold draft in my room, even when the windows were shut tight. The faint sound of shifting earth outside my house, as if something beneath the soil was moving. Then I noticed the dirt. It appeared in places it shouldn't be under my fingernails when I woke up, dusting my sheets, sprinkled across the bathroom floor. I told myself it was in my head. I told myself I was imagining it. But then I saw the footprints, leading from the front yard to my bedroom door, and they weren't mine. I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard it. A voice low, muffled, as if coming from underground. You left me. I jolted awake one night, heart pounding, sweat soaking my pillow. My room was silent, but the whisper was still in my head, curling around my thoughts like smoke. You left me. I buried my face in my hands, squeezing my eyes shut. You're dead, I whispered to myself. You're dead, and this isn't real. The whisper turned into a laugh full of horror. I found them the next morning, long, jagged scratches along my bedroom wall. They spelled something. I stumbled back, my stomach twisting. My hands were trembling as I reached up, pressing my fingers to the deep grooves in the wood. The dirt was still fresh, as if someone had clawed them there from inside. I don't know why I did it. That's a lie. I know exactly why. We were supposed to be brothers, me and Danny, best friends since childhood. We did everything together. We had each other's backs. Until I found out the truth. Danny had betrayed me. Not in the way people think, not over money, not over some girl. No, Danny had ruined me. He knew something, a secret I couldn't let him keep. And when I confronted him, things got out of control. I hit him. He fell. His head cracked against the rocks. I remember standing over him, my breath coming in short gasps, watching the blood seep into the dirt. I thought he was dead, but then he groaned, and he looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes that terrified me. Not fear, hate. He would never forgive me. So I did what I had to do. I woke up to a sound, tap, 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 slow, rhythmic, coming from inside my walls. I sat up, my pulse hammering in my throat. Tap, tap, tap. It was closer now, right behind me. I turned just in time to see the wall bulge outward, as if something behind it was pushing through. I scrambled backward, slamming into the dresser. The tapping stopped. Silence. And then a single fingernail pierced through the drywall, scraping, digging, trying to get out. I left my house that night. I couldn't stay there anymore. The walls weren't just walls. They were a coffin, and Danny was inside, whispering, scratching, waiting. I checked into a motel on the edge of town. The air was stale, the bed stiff, but I didn't care. I just needed distance, but I couldn't escape him. That night, as I lay in the motel bed, I heard it again. The muffled screaming. It was coming from under the floorboards. I covered my ears, squeezing my eyes shut. You left me. I pressed my face into the pillow, biting down on a scream. You left me. The floorboards beneath me shuddered. Let me out. I couldn't take it anymore. I went back to the burial site. The forest was silent as I stood over the disturbed earth, the moon casting long shadows through the trees. The ground looked wrong, like it had been moved. My hands trembled as I dropped to my knees, shoving away the dirt, digging frantically. I dug until my hands bled. The cold earth slipped beneath my nails, clumps of damp soil sticking to my trembling fingers. My breath came in ragged gasps, my lungs burning with exhaustion. But I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. The moment I'd seen the disturbed dirt, I knew something was wrong. I clawed deeper, the scent of decay thick in the air, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. Then my hands hit something solid wood, the coffin, the same one I had buried with my own 2 hands. It should have been undisturbed. It should have been sealed, but the lid was loose. My stomach twisted as I reached forward, my fingers hesitating at the splintered edge. The air around me felt wrong, thicker, charged with something unseen, something watching. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, to run and never look back. But I needed to see. I had to know. With a deep breath, I gritted my teeth and wrenched the lid open. The coffin was empty. No body, no remains. Just the imprint of where my friend had once lain, as if something had crawled its way out. Something had gotten up. A sharp, ragged gasp escaped my throat as I stumbled back, my legs weak beneath me. The grave gaped open like a wound, dirt shifting in the breeze. My breath came too fast, my chest tightening with a horrible realization. Danny wasn't in his grave, and if he wasn't here, then where the hell was he? Then, from somewhere deep in the trees, I heard it. A wet, gurgling breath. And my name. "You left me!" I ran. The forest stretched endlessly around me, branches clawing at my skin as I stumbled through the undergrowth. My lungs burned, my vision blurred, but I kept going, my feet pounding against the dirt path that led back home. The whisper followed, close, too close. "You left me." Danny's voice, but wrong, too wet, too thick, as if his throat was still filled with dirt, as if a coffin had swallowed him whole and spat him back out. The sound of footsteps, slow, heavy, deliberate, crunched through the leaves behind me. I didn't dare to look. I couldn't. Then the scent hit me, rotting flesh, earth, something deep and old and wrong. I choked on a sob, my chest heaving as I reached the edge of the woods. My house was just ahead, porch light flickering in the distance like a beacon. But just as I took a step forward, something grabbed my ankle. Ice-cold fingers, slick with damp soil, latched onto my skin. I screamed, kicking wildly, but the grip was impossibly strong. I felt nails, long and jagged, dig into my flesh, pulling me back toward the trees. I kicked harder, my foot connecting with something soft and wet. A crack echoed through the night, and the grip loosened. I scrambled forward, tearing myself free, my body crashing onto the dewy grass of my backyard. I turned, gasping, expecting to see him standing there. But there was nothing, just the wind rustling through the trees. And yet, I could still feel it, the weight of those rotting hands, the unmistakable pressure of fingers that should have been lifeless. Danny had gotten out of his coffin, and he was coming for me. I locked every door, shut every window, and dragged a heavy dresser in front of my bedroom door. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. My entire body was slick with sweat, my heartbeat hammering against my ribs. I sat on the edge of my bed, gripping the edge of the mattress, my mind racing. Maybe I had imagined it. Maybe I was just cracking under the guilt. Maybe. Then the scratching started, a long, slow scrape against the glass of my bedroom window. My stomach turned to ice. I forced myself to look. Danny stood outside. His skin was gray, sagging like wet paper, his hair matted with dirt and blood. His eyes, milky white, lifeless, yet staring right at me, glowed faintly under the moonlight. His mouth stretched into something that might have once been a smile, but now it was just torn skin, pulled too wide, lips cracked and bleeding. One rotting hand dragged slowly down the window, fingernails screeching against the glass. I pressed myself against the wall, my breath coming in short, ragged gasps. His lips moved. I didn't hear his voice, but I understood. "Let me in." I didn't sleep. I didn't move. I just sat there, watching as his fingers traced slow, patient circles against the window pane. At some point, the scratching stopped. His face remained pressed against the glass, unmoving. But then I heard something else. A thud, not from outside, from beneath me. I looked down. My bedroom floor, old wooden planks, scratched with time, shuddered. Another thud, louder this time, shook the walls. Then I heard the muffled screams. From under the floorboards, my stomach churned violently. No, this wasn't real. I forced myself onto my knees, pressing an ear against the wooden panels. My breath hitched. There it was, a weak, gasping cry. "Please," Danny's voice. But if he was outside, who the hell was under the floor? The realization hit me like a sledgehammer. I had buried him alive. The memories came flooding back, sharper than ever. The way his fingers had twitched when I was piling on the dirt, the way his lips had moved, whispering something too faint to hear. I had left him there, suffocating, clawing at the inside of his coffin. I had let him die. A cold, suffocating dread settled over me as I backed away from the floorboards, my entire body trembling. A final thunderous bang shook the walls. The floor split open, and from the darkness beneath, two rotting hands reached up and grabbed my ankles. I screamed. Danny pulled himself out of the abyss, his eyes burning with something beyond hatred, beyond revenge. His mouth twisted, not into a smile, but into a snarl of jagged teeth and torn flesh. His fingers dug into my legs as he whispered something I could not understand in a rasping voice like dirt in a dry throat. The first thing I noticed was the weight, the crushing, suffocating weight of the dirt pressing down on me. My ribs strained under the pressure, my lungs aching as I gasped for air that wasn't there. The scent of damp earth filled my nose, thick and smothering, clogging my throat with every shallow, ragged breath. I tried to move, but my arms wouldn't budge. The dirt had settled around me, packed tight like cement, locking me in place. My legs were pinned, my chest barely able to rise with each frantic breath. Panic hit me in a violent wave. I thrashed, twisting, struggling to move even an inch. But the more I fought, the more the earth swallowed me. Soil shifted around my face, spilling into my mouth. I spat it out, but it only made space for more. My screams died before they could even escape. I wasn't supposed to be here. I was supposed to be alive. My heart slammed against my ribs, the terror blossoming into something unbearable. My fingers clawed at the wooden lid above me, nails scraping against the splintered surface. Thud, thud, thud. I pounded against the coffin, each hit weaker than the last. I opened my mouth to scream for help, but all that came out was a choked, desperate wheeze. The dirt was sinking into me now, filling every crevice, spilling into my ears, slipping beneath my eyelids, grinding against my teeth. The air was running out. No one was coming. And then I heard it, a sound above me, footsteps, slow, deliberate, moving across the ground just above my grave. I froze, my breath hitching, my pulse hammering so loudly I swore it shook the coffin. My cracked lips trembled, my throat burning as I forced out a single desperate whisper. "Help! Me!" The footsteps stopped. For a moment, there was nothing but silence, the weight of the grave, the suffocating darkness, the burning in my lungs. Then, from above, came the worst sound imaginable. A soft, muffled chuckle. Danny. His voice seeped through the layers of dirt, thick with amusement, distorted like it was dragging through wet soil. "You left me," he whispered. The ground above me shifted. Dirt crumbled, trickling down onto my face like cold fingers brushing against my skin. I started to sob. "Danny, please, please. I didn't mean," he hummed thoughtfully. Then, in a voice full of mock sympathy, he whispered, "Don't worry, buddy. I won't leave you." A sharp, hollow knock rapped against the coffin lid. Once, twice, and then the digging began. But he wasn't digging me out. He was digging deeper, burying me further. I screamed. I screamed so loudly I thought my vocal cords would tear, but my voice barely made it past my own lips. The dirt was swallowing me whole, slipping into my mouth, my nose, forcing itself down my throat. Danny kept digging, humming a soft, familiar tune, the same song we used to whistle as kids when we played in the woods. The last thing I heard before the dirt sealed me in forever was his voice. "Your turn." Well, that was pretty much it. I hope you liked the story till then. Bye-bye.